Hi, my name is Ted Tasker. I'm the Chief Technical Officer of BI Voyage. Welcome to Take 5. This is going to be 5 minutes to take a look at a SQL Server to PDW migration. Common question that customers looking at PDW have is, why can't they just take that SQL Server backup? If it's SQL Server on the PDW compute nodes, why can't a backup just be restored? PDW is built on SQL Server, but there's some fundamental differences. New table types, not all the data types are supported, there's some syntax differences, plus a single backup file from your SMP SQL Server can't be mapped over to the 4, 10, 20 compute nodes that you have. Every compute node ends up with a backup file on PDW. So if you need to move your database over, what you would have to do is create your database, figure out what that sizing should be for the distributed and replicate portions of the database, script every table one by one, removing invalid data types, determine the table type you wanted, learn new partition syntax if you need it, export all the data except for those invalid types, and create load scripts. That's a lot of work, especially if you have a large number of tables. But the thing is, it's also logical work, and it can be done programmatically, which is what we've done. We created a T-SQL script that you can execute against your SQL SMP box. It'll create outputs required to do things like BCP out all the data that you're going to need, or it can actually just run the BCP outs itself if you've given it command shell privileges. It'll create a script to create the PDW database and tables. It'll give you a spreadsheet with information of how it made decisions, and it'll create a load file that will push the data into the PDW. So you review your sizing, make sure everything makes sense, take a look at your script and make sure you like that, copy over your DAT files and the BAT file to the landing zone, run the load, and you've migrated your SMP onto PDW. So let's take a look at that now. So I'm currently connected to a HP half-rack PDW appliance that BIV purchased for development, training, research, and I'm in SQL Server Management Studio right now looking at a SQL Server 2008 Enterprise Database ADRM Smart Meter, so running on SMP SQL Server that most of us know. I have a T-SQL script that I created and have been modifying since pretty much the release of PDW version 1 that will read the system tables and create all the artifacts I need to quickly migrate this database to a PDW database. Now, in a true scenario, would I just take this script and run it this fast and migrate? No, I'd review the code that was generated, see if I'm in agreement with it. But in general, this code will do things like comment out unsupported data types, determine distribution keys, things of that nature, and give us all the correct syntax for PDW. The right here are the files it just created. One of them is this PDW create database. The other files of interest here are all these .dat files. These are BCP out commands I ran against the current SMP database. I limited it to 10,000 rows because it's hard to do a demonstration in under a few minutes if I'm exporting billions of rows. And we also created a BAT file that will load that information into PDW. So I'm going to the query console for PDW. I'm going to open the file that was just generated. So this file is going to handle my creation of my database as well as my tables for PDW based on the structure that was in the current one. So here you can see I'm creating a table billing statement. It's giving me some metadata here, how many rows were in the original table, the fact that this was a unique identifier. And if I scroll down, execute, scroll down, it doesn't want to let me. I can see things like the distribution is a hash on average cost per day amount, how many distinct values I found. It created an index similar to, or not similar, but identical to the one that was in the SMP database. That's an option you can turn off and on, but it's all been created at this point. So now I've got my database structure, I just need to load it. I did create a file called dwloader.bat. It's now going through and loading these files. This is similar to a BCP-N, except it runs in parallel. So while that's running, I'm going to come over here. I know one of the first tables loaded would be amenity type because it goes alphabetically. And 9 records returned. So you just saw BI Voyage utility migrate an SMP database to PDW, schema, and data in under 5 minutes. If you want more information, please contact Joe Anstein at bivoyage.com. Thanks for watching Take 5.